Hey folks, it's Wednesday, so you know what that means. So another mailing full of lies and half-truths just arrived into your mailbox today, courtesy of Congressperson Randy Feenstra. Yes, it's Congressperson, not Congressman. That's how he referred to himself during COVID, back when he was walking around outdoors wearing a mask. Anyway, this week it seems I've been accused of being soft on fentanyl. So let's dive in, shall we? Now, the attack ad that you may have received today says that I, proven conservative Randy Feenstra, voted for the Halt Fentanyl Act to punish criminals. But Kevin Mergel opposed the bill. He puts criminals ahead of victims and wokeness over the rule of law. Now, Randy, I've been called a lot of things in my day, but you are the first person to have ever called me woke. Now, I noticed that you didn't call me that to my face when I introduced myself to you at the district convention last month. Actually, you didn't call me anything. You ran and hid behind your staff so that you wouldn't have to talk to me. It was actually kind of weird. But anyway, on this fentanyl accusation, look, Randy Feenstra wants to talk tough about the Halt Fentanyl Act. But there are some serious problems with that law. Like most government bills, it started as a good idea, but it was written very poorly and it ended up creating more problems than it solved. So here's what the Halt Fentanyl Act did. First, it imposed a federal mandatory minimum jail sentence for fentanyl-related offenses. Now, the problem with federal mandatory minimums, they're a bad idea because they take power away from the states, which the Constitution says should be the level at which most crimes are prosecuted. And the Halt Fentanyl Act, therefore, violates the 10th Amendment and is unconstitutional. And it also classified all fentanyl-related substances as a Schedule I drug. Now, most Schedule I drugs don't have any medical use, like heroin or LSD, and the problem with is that fentanyl actually does have some legitimate medical uses, like pain relief for patients suffering from advanced cancer. So if the government would pass the Halt Fentanyl Act, it would have had to dramatically increase the size of the FDA, the DEA, and all these other federal agencies in order to regulate that drug. So really, the only thing that the Halt Fentanyl Act would have done would be to have transferred more power from the states to the federal government, both in terms of law enforcement and regulation. It was a bad law that didn't solve the correct problem. Now, if we want to stop proliferation of fentanyl, which both you and I certainly do, the first thing we have to do is we have to close the southern border. But Feenstra couldn't do that. He had several opportunities to pressure the Biden White House to close the border over the past year. For example, when the conservative wing of the Republican Party in Congress tried to force a border closure while they were negotiating continued funding for the federal government. And as usual, Feenstra sold out the conservatives every time, at least until I announced my primary challenge. He voted with the Democrats, like he almost always does, and he kept the border open. And what do you know? The Halt Fentanyl Act comes along with a plan to give even more power to the federal bureaucracy, and Randy was all in. Feenstra gives more power to the deep state at every opportunity, and that's because 98% of his campaign donations come from large PACs and big donors outside of Iowa. I mean, check out his FEC records and see for yourself. He sends these attack ads to you because, like most politicians in D.C., he thinks you're not paying attention. He thinks you'll read this and say, oh, that guy's running against his woke. Never mind that he went to West Point, served in the Army, served his country overseas, and always quotes Ron Paul. But that's the difference between Randy and I. I think you are paying attention, and that's why when I'm your representative in Congress, I'm going to record detailed explanations of the bills that Congress is voting on. I'll explain the good and the bad and exactly why I vote for or against a bill. Now, Randy never does that, probably because he doesn't really understand what he's voting on, but because he's not working for you. Like I said last week, I don't need to tell lies and attack ads or call my opponent names. All I have to do is tell the truth about Randy's voting record. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.